And welcome to Candidates Corner on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television, a production of the Libertarian Party and Libertarian National Committee. Whitney Bilyeu serving as chair. As always, John Gamso on the big board. My name is Pat Ford. I'm your host, the proud alternate now to LNC Region 8. It is my singular honor every week, 2 nights a week, to be on the air sharing, if you will, I think the very best of the libertarian community to the libertarian world and, well, those other folks outside who just wish they could be us. There are, as always, the mantra, a few points to our weekly gathering. We want to give the libertarian community an opportunity to meet our wonderful down ballot candidates. What do I mean by down ballot? Well, all the folks who are running for, well, state representative, state senate, town council, town auditor, school boards, and of course, our gubernatorial candidates, our congressional delegations, all the folks who bring to each election their unique perspective on the libertarian philosophy and the libertarian statement of principles. Why is this so important? Elections bring the laser-like focus, if you will, of the media, the outside world, onto a particular candidacy. And by having the strong libertarian candidates we have now out in the field, we're able to interject into the argument our viewpoint on the world, our viewpoint on issues. And that brings us to the second point of the show. We challenge our candidates to incorporate what I call lunch pail American issues into each of their elections. It goes without saying that if you're running for federal office, well, the war on drugs, the debacle in Afghanistan, our foreign policy, nuclear war, all of those are critical points, our national reaction to COVID. On a local level, whether you be running for governor or town auditor, you afford an opportunity at each of these levels to bring a libertarian perspective to an argument, to a situation, to a candidacy, to an election for people who this may be their first brush with the libertarian movement. And why it's both an opportunity and a responsibility for all of these candidates to put their best foot forward. To understand that we don't govern per se, we steward the assets along with the stakeholders and members of the community in order to bring freedom to everyone in their lifetime. To understand that great ideas don't require force. And the impact of so many of these candidacies have been nothing less than revelatory for their communities, for whom many have grown up surrounded by the specter of big government, for many of whom whose lives have been dominated by duopoly, for many of whom who think participation in the omnipotent state is an impossibility, that they are simply hosts, organisms, if you will, for the efforts, designs, the desires of big government upon their lives. Finally, as always, we talk about building a libertarian community, creating a sense that the candidacy, as we discussed tonight, for the gubernatorial election in New Jersey, because of everything I've said, is just important to the folks in, Alaska, the Libertarian Party of Washington, the great folks down in New Mexico, the amazing organizations in Texas and Pennsylvania. It is just as important because by creating, I'll call it for what it is, this area of inevitability, that there exists outside of the failed government that we have in place tonight, there exists an alternative. And is that discussion, that analysis, platform, as that buzz grows on a nationwide level, we all benefit. Joining us tonight is the Libertarian candidate to be governor of the Garden State, the great state of New Jersey, Gregg Mele. Gregg, welcome to Candidates Corner on LPTV.
Thanks so much, Pat. Thanks for having me, and also congratulations on your recent election to regional alternate.
It's more fun than I can ever imagine. I love retail politics. I know you love retail politics, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Mm-hmm. So in all this tragedy and all this chaos lies great opportunity and great responsibility. And it's up to us to simply make it happen. not to obsess with the petty, not to become buried in the mundane, but just simply to make it happen. And congratulations on your candidacy. As first of all, full disclosure, exit 138. Okay. Just full disclosure. I am a son of the Garden State. I, like many, left to seek other climes and moved on up to what we affectionately in Rhode Island refer to as North Jersey. Because it's let's just say it's a reflection. We've got our own Chris Christie's. Okay. We'll just leave it at that. But tell us about yourself. You've been a candidate a number of occasions. You've taken on bigger and bigger responsibilities as you progressed. But give us your background, and we always ask each candidate for what that libertarian moment was. What was it when that, you and I, when we were kids, we didn't have fancy cartoons like now. We had Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner. Yeah. When the little light bulb literally went off over someone's head. What was that moment for you?
Okay. Well, I mean, I am a lifelong resident, first of all, of New Jersey. I grew up in Northern Jersey, 160 at the time.
Yikes.
And
Yikes.
Yeah,
rich people up there, man.
Not all. Actually, we're in a pretty blue collar town, Rochelle Park, and we did struggle some for sure. But my grandparents came through Ellis Island to Manhattan. My parents met there, got married very young, as most did at that time, and came out of the city into Jersey, and that's where we were. I have since lived mostly, I don't know if some folks are going to dispute that it exists, but I live for the last number of years in Central Jersey. That's another debate we have here. But I've been, my office is in Clark. That's exactly off 135 for reference. And
wait. Mother Seton High School.
And I live further out now. I'm in Bridgewater these days. Lived in Union County for a long time too, in between. But as far as background, I grew up in a Republican household, very work ethic, pride, kind of no handouts kind of environment. And I also liked the idea growing up about sort of limited government. And over the years, I became a little disenchanted by the fact that they seemed to join the Democrats in just ridiculously drunken sailor spending, and went against the principles that I held very closely. And for a little while, I actually didn't stay involved in politics or follow it very much. But then actually, I had the incentive to look at a potential run. Initially, it was before I found the Libertarian Party, and I had a dream since I was 18, and I had my first sample ballot that wouldn't it be nice if I could be on there one day. And over the years, there was never anything close to an opportunity for that, really. But I decided that I wanted to show my daughters that you follow your dream and pursuit. And so I went for the petitions to be an independent candidate. It was back in 2018 for a congressional run. And right before the election in that October, I had been introduced to some of the Libertarian folks. And actually, part of the reason was because my platform that I was promoting happened to align very much with their philosophy. So I actually was one of the few, as just starting to be a party member, to get an endorsement, even though I wasn't under their banner that year. But so I had that, get my feet wet experience. I did another race for local office for mayor in my town. We did pretty well compared to typical results for us. And that kind of got me on the path of being more involved at a higher level with the party. And then, now starting off on this run. I started the campaign process, or at least the declaration internally to the party of my intention to run back last year in August. And I said that, if we're going to do something big like this, we're going to do it right. So, I got an infrastructure together. I got about 30 people on the campaign team with a wide range of really critical and valuable skills that they all excel at. And I've been incredibly fortunate in that regard. And so we put together the the social media, the website, all this kind of stuff. We put together our platform, solidified it, crystallized it, and by the time we got to our convention, which was March, we were in pretty good shape to secure the nomination. And then the petition drive started right away, and yeah, we hammered that one out. We went way beyond our requirements, so yeah, we were fortunate so far all the way. And right now, I'm actually in the middle of my second of 3 21 county tours of the state, where I've been going out and meeting people. I've been going to protests. I've been going to the Board of Ed meetings, especially where there's a lot of noise going on in New Jersey right now, and a whole bunch of other events whenever I can get to something.
A big part of this show is to discuss with perhaps less experienced candidates the notion of campaign formation in and of itself. Obviously, you honor the first and most important role, which is to start as early as possible. The type of things that you're started doing months ago, unfortunately, some candidates are starting to think about now, and that's way too late. How many folks are in your campaign team, and what what was the methodology you followed to sort of fill that out to particularly for a complex statewide election? And I just want to say to folks, New Jersey obviously is a state I know a lot about. I know a fair amount about its politics. You've got really. And you're joking about Central Jersey, but there's even 2 Central Jerseys. I mean, you've got Middlesex County is traditionally, that 278 belt, Route 22 going out west, a little bit of 80. You've got that Central Jersey, and then you've got the Central Jersey that I consider Central Jersey, which is Elizabeth, Newark, Union, and as you put it, Union County. And at the same time, when you talk about states as melting pots, there is really nothing like New Jersey. No, New York City was traditionally the melting pot, right? Well, most of that's been priced out of New York City. And so you're as likely to be driving down a street in New York City. You're as likely to see a temple, a Methodist church, a Catholic church, any one of number of Indian or Southwest Asian groups represented on a given block. And all the combinations the same in a manner that's possibly unlike any other state in the nation, say California. It's an incredibly, you've got 3 sections. You've got, Northwest Jersey, which is still is become sort of a commuter city to New York, if you will. But at the same point in time, there's camping and a rural life. You've got the Pine Barrens, which there's this immense portion of the state. You've got the Camden Trenton link, and at the same time, you're still depending on Philadelphia and New York, as terms of mass media. So yikes, that's a lot to get your arms around. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on tonight, because we need to generate support for your candidacy. It is a bellwether state. Yours is a bellwether candidacy. There's several gubernatorial races going on this year, which have amazing candidates. We've already had Natalie Bruno on from Oklahoma, and we've got a couple of more folks to go. So how did you lay out your campaign team, and what was your thought process behind embarking on this remarkable county by county by county by county by county trip?
Yeah. Well, so far, first of all, as far as the team formation, I had seen where, and I have followed politics most of my life. I look at what the duopoly do, and we're talking about logistics, boots on the ground kind of things, and what seems to work. I figured, best thing to learn from is the people who are winning, right? And so there's no shame in following some of that lead in terms of strategy and again logistics. So I felt that generally speaking, we were getting out of the blocks too late. Pretty much, the years that I've been involved, the few years that I've been involved in the party. And I told people right in the beginning last summer, late summer into fall, we're getting the jump on this because we're going to keep up as much as we can with everybody else that's in competition. And, you see the result now in general is, we're getting invited to things as one of, quote unquote, the 3 gubernatorial candidates. And there are actually going to be 5 on the ballot, but The other two are smaller third-party candidates that aren't really doing much in the way of campaigning, advertising, anything like that. And it feels like we've been elevated to be in that top-tier conversation this year with the effort we've had. Now, as far as, once we got the nomination process out of the way in March and all went well, and I had decided already that, had that been successful, I would be looking to travel the entire state. Something that it's hard in the sense that you still don't get all the media attention that the other two get, but with that kind of persistence, we're looking to make that happen where it can't be ignored. And so during the month of May, mostly, we started at the tail end of April, was my first tour, and that was during the petition time as well. So it was a combination of, meet the candidate sort of thing, and, please sign a petition so you can, get us on the ballot and you can hear us the rest of the year and get some more ideas that maybe, look better than what might be offered so far from the other two. The tour now, which, is, again, sort of tail end of July, or well, I guess more toward middle of July to Labor Day, actually. And the first one, by the way, ended on Memorial Day. This tour will end on Labor Day, and it's really about get to know the candidate better, ask questions, have a real conversation, shake hands, look each other in the eye. Me asking people, certainly, I mean, what are your major concerns? What do you find is troubling about the state? What also do you like about the state, and what are you looking for more of in the state? And invariably, what's really nice is that it seems like whatever I hear from people, it lines up perfectly with our common sense platform, unlike any other. The others are extreme, and they've pitted each other against each other. And we're right in the middle, say, look, we have something for everybody, and we can offer a realistic and a practical solution to all the problems that are out there. So that's been great. And then the third tour that'll come after Labor Day, that will basically be focusing on sort of more of a town hall structured Q&A, and that's going to be we're deciding to do a tour of various diners early in the day for that tour. Because at night, we're going to have a lot more of these Board of Ed meetings to attend, a lot more protest gatherings. So we have to be ready for those and sort of leave the later part of the day and the evening open for those as they pop up. So we're doing that third tour, like I said, early on in the day to try to get the coverage across the state again and give people one more chance to, see what's going on. And I don't mean that to say that it's the only chance. We are going to have other visits. I'm pretty much campaigning at least 6 days a week where I'm going out to meet people in some regard. So, I'm intending to keep that schedule the rest of the way through. We're also going to have, of course, major fundraisers coming up, and those plans are being revealed very soon. And we're just looking to make sure that people have all the opportunities we can give them to find out more about what we stand for, and hopefully they'll come out and be happy with what they hear.
You talk about the rise to prominence, you breaking through that glass ceiling to get to that, to be counted in, to be mentioned in, to be discussed as, to be referenced to, the expanding, if you will, the number from the 2 to the 3. What type of media outreach did that require? And how have you framed your relationship with the New Jersey media? And again, we're talking about a complex. I'll use the other side's term, a media mosaic, to put it lightly. And I'll throw this out there. What's interesting about New Jersey to me is that it's one of the few states where the print newspapers, and they're in digital form, obviously, but the newspapers themselves still have maintained very prominent roles, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we try pretty much every avenue. I mean, we've had a lot of occasion where I've either called in to radio stations. We're preparing our prepared ads for advertising coming in these last 2 months. I've had communications director who's been sending out press releases on all the major events that have occurred along the way, our stand on them, that kind of thing. And it's just the combination of all that plus all the tour stops and everything else. Again, just like hammering every day. And I also am pretty active between me and my team on social media on all the accounts we have. So we're constantly trying to pump out information, remind people, that kind of thing, so that hopefully the media blast we do, plus all the visits to people, will really get their attention that we take this seriously, because first, that's the only way to make sure people will take us seriously, is if we take ourselves seriously and really give it all to this campaign. So, people try to talk about, oh, what's a good percentage, result that will make you happy in the voting? It's 50% plus one vote. That's what'll make me happy. Everything else is in the right direction, but that's where we go for. And you know what? You shoot for the stars, at least get to the moon, and even the moon could be enough in a three-way race. So, we're not thinking about coming in less than first. I mean, we had there was an NJ Insider Magazine online poll, and we won. We had about 53 and change percent.
Wow.
Of the vote came to us, and that's with all 5 candidates that are going to be on the ballot, plus a write-in campaign from one of the folks in the state. So out of the 6 choices they offered, we did the best, and it was not close. So we were very happy with that.
What is a win number in a state like New Jersey? And folks, hold on to your hats for this one. Go ahead. What roughly is a win number?
Well, if you're talking about in the 3-horse race,
yep.
I mean, I would be looking for, I would hope, at least 40%. And, I think that could do it. The other thing I tell people all the time, especially how we're positioned, I mean, we have a Republican nominee who is just about as big government as our current governor. So when people talk about, splitting votes, things like that, I mean, actually, historically, the Libertarian Party has drawn votes equally from the other 2 parties, but some people have an impression that we draw only from one or the other, and that we cost people elections and things like that. Well, first of all, if that was the case, you need to put the best candidate you can find up there, and that won't be an issue. But to the extent of splitting votes, I try to tell people, well, you got 2 big government guys and you got me. I'm looking to make it as small as it can be to provide necessary functions without all the intrusion into personal lives and personal decisions. So I tell people, let them split, even if it's 60% of the people in New Jersey that actually like big government. Let them split 30 apiece, and I'll take the other 40 and go home happy. But we talk about, as one of our main slogans, that the leading cause of death over the course of human history is big government. So look our way. We're the ones that are going to turn this thing 180 degrees from where it's headed, and it's just been worse and worse. I mean, I don't know how many decades that I look back and say, that there's not been a governor that really has righted the ship and gone in the right direction. And we've had our mix from both parties as far as who's been in office. And so it's really time to start saying, this is an incredibly expensive state, and we're simply not getting the return on investment for what we're paying in taxes. We have to reduce that burden. We have to reduce government involvement and really encourage the personal responsibility of everyone. I mean, we have probably among the top talented workforces in our state. Right. We should encourage that. We should provide opportunities for training and retraining potentially, right? But also to just encourage people to get out and make their living and, receive all the benefits of work, psychologically and everything else that have been proven since, time immemorial. So, and with all of that, I think we can really make this state a great place to live and work, and not as expensive as it is.
Yeah. One of the frustrations as a son of New Jersey, there was a time when manufacturing, and I think, again, parochially, I think of Route 1, in the stretch between the Pulaski Skyway all the way down to, say, just north of Princeton, was lined with manufacturing, particularly in areas like Linden, where you had General Motors had a huge facility. where all sorts of gut level manufacturing, and then you went into what I call Central Jersey into Northern New Jersey, and there was a time when New Jersey was the world center of pharmaceuticals. Companies like Hoffman LaRoche, companies like Schering. You've still got Merck and a few people there, but it's a shadow of its former self, and it's certainly a shadow of its former international prominence. All of that left because of big government. And I can go back to to date myself here. To me, the time when that became to change was the Brendan Byrne, if you will, gubernatorial reign of economic terror, and it's gotten worse since then. What do you think happened here? I mean, you and I are probably roughly around the same age, and we saw it all happen before us. You were brave and stayed. I cried and left. But and then I went to a Soviet workers' paradise, otherwise known as Rhode Island. So what did I know? But what happened there? I mean, it's how such a sea change, and really within a generation.
Yeah, I think part of the problem has been what the duopoly do. I mean, they coordinate, and they just make sure that everybody gets their pork into every law before anything happens. So it's just a constant increase in the burdens, and everybody pushes off the expense. I mean, our current governor went ahead and borrowed a whole bunch of money he didn't have to, because he was also getting a bailout to balance his budget. And now who knows where that is going to come from, as far as I should say, who's going to receive that money that's been borrowed, that the taxpayers are going to have to pay back over the coming years. Our children and grandchildren that are still here are going to suffer greatly. I mean, my daughters have left the state, and there's a lot of others that are heading out. I mean, I do a lot of real estate in my law practice, and I get so many people leaving the state, and it's without exception, they talk about the taxes. It's right. Just too much burden, not enough return. And we're talking about hardworking people who are trying to really make things better and get a little bit ahead, and that are being stifled and brought back down by the long arm of government.
The irony here is New Jersey, to me, and I love your reflection on this remark, New Jersey is testament to the immigrant economy. Were it not for a thriving immigrant population who very often ascend to the middle class within a generation, New Jersey would just be a wasteland. I mean, when you talk about the libertarian philosophy on immigration, we look to the economic energy that different groups from around the world bring. How important is that to the economy of New Jersey?
Oh, I mean, I think it's critical everywhere, especially New Jersey. It's, I mean, yes, it's historically been a melting pot within a melting pot that the country is. And I mean, yeah, my grandparents, like I said before, came to the country. My parents grew up in Manhattan, very, working class, that kind of thing, blue collar. And like you said, a generation or two now, I mean, I put myself through all the school I did, which, wound up to be a number of graduate degrees after the undergrad. I found a way to cover all of that while working full time and having a family, because I wanted to get to that next plateau for my children and for my future, my grandchildren, etc. I mean, I just actually became a grandfather in June, so we had a happy family celebration about that. My first grandchild. So
excellent, wonderful.
We're very happy, and we're riding that energy and positivity and momentum throughout this campaign as well. And we got everything going right everywhere else, so we just got to make sure we put all that energy into this and get it going.
Folks, if you're just joining us, Gregg Mele is the Libertarian Party nominee for the gubernatorial race in the Garden State, aka New Jersey. He's joining us tonight. A rare couple of minutes off. We were going to get together last week. And what is it? You threw out the first pitch? What did you do?
I was looking to make an arrangement with the Somerset Patriots. I couldn't get anybody in time, unfortunately, but okay. We do tend to get stifled from media coverage often enough, unfortunately, and so they talk about not being political as an organization. I don't know if that's fully true, but nonetheless, I mean, I'm going to be talking to them again and see. On the other hand, I mean, my one vice, I have Devils season tickets for a long time, and we're going to one of the early games in the season as a group, and I'm going to be able to, have an announcement on the board as far as the group, and another special surprise for those of my team who can make that game. So I look forward to having that unveiled at the game, and that's actually I just arranged for the 23rd of October. So I'm hoping that most of my team can make it, and we're going to have a lot of fun that night.
Let's talk issues. There's two supersets of issues, if you will. There's COVID, and then there's everything else. I often allude to the now infamous statement during the Clinton campaign about it's the economy, stupid. It is the economy, stupid. That's words to live by. And part of the effort of the show is to get less seasoned candidates to understand that while we may think Austrian economics is a critical issue that we can discuss endlessly, I can guarantee you right now that a significant part of the population of New Jersey cares not a whit about Austrian economics. In fact, their obsession is, and tell us, what are New Jerseyans thinking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly there is a lot of talk about COVID ever since we had lockdowns early last year, and diametrically opposed opinions. We have a crack biostatistician on our team who has done all the analysis, and this is her living, and she's published very frequently. And things like the lockdowns, the masks, I mean, they didn't appreciably change the results relative to places that didn't do that. I mean, we have the highest per capita death rate still of any state in the country, and it's just awful that people hail our governor as a hero, while meanwhile the methods he's used actually have backfired. There are a lot more problems from other downsides or collateral damage of the lockdowns, the masks, those kinds of things. But that doesn't mean that we're anti-mask or anti-lockdown. I mean, the lockdown because of the mandate, and also to the extent of mandates, the masks, we're against the mandate part. We feel that these things are personal choices. The economy was already not doing well in our state, but then it really got crushed by the lockdowns. And so part of it is, was that really necessary? Did it really make a difference? The answer was clearly no from the data. But also, some people, they know the risks, just like you could have with the flu or other viruses and germs we've had in years past. Some more contagious than COVID, and we've never quarantined the healthy before, and that was a new thing with this lockdown stuff. And I feel like people should have been free to choose, and knowing the risks. I mean, certainly, government's role, in my opinion, in that kind of regard is to provide information. But then it really is supposed to be up to each individual for personal and medical decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those freedoms should be paramount. And, if you are concerned about, being exposed to other people, if you can arrange, staying home or wearing a mask or whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable. I mean, everybody should have the chance to make that choice. But also the people who are, not so worried about it, they understand how these things work, and at least basic sort of steps, preventative measures to protect themselves and still be able to go out and make a living and keep the economy moving. I think that's very important. And so we have a lot of problems now with, suicides and psychological issues, depression, anxiety, all this kind of stuff. And, it's just, the backlash from the method has been as much or more than the virus itself as far as its impact on our state. So, we're really looking for people to use good common sense, figure out what they're comfortable with, and then they should be able to do that. I don't like the idea of these government mandates on anything. I think, as far as trying to bridge the gap between the vaxxers and the anti-vaxxers, for example, it really should be a matter of cooperation and basic human decency, which we all have. I mean, no matter what anyone says about the hate that's out there or whatever else. I mean, yes, there's a rise in hate in recent times, but basically most people are very decent people who will help someone in trouble in their neighborhood, for example, if they find out. So we have to rely on that kind of attitude, and also volunteerism, which we're also big on promoting. Um, that's what's going to keep things in a good direction for our state, and also keep people happy and safe at the same time, at least as safe as you can be in an uncertain world.
Absolutely. Let's, if you will, turn our sights on traditional campaign issues. Clearly, as you pointed out, and many people pointed out, taxes are, well, I mean, that's everything in New Jersey. Do you think folks understand, from your perspective as an attorney and as someone who's got a vast amount of experience in a variety of areas of the of business community, of business law, of business formation, of wealth creation, those crazy words, right? Do you think folks understand that something called the effective tax rate of a state is a singular component of business formation, whether it be large corporate formation, large corporate movement, acquisition, things like that, or just where to create higher level entrepreneurial business? Do you think people understand what an effective tax rate really means?
I mean, the short answer is no. I mean, I think, well, certainly besides the outflow of residents from this state, the other thing that we've seen, of course, is a lot of small business, especially shuttering their doors or leaving the state before they, to try to outrun it before it happens. But, the problem with the environment here, it's the most business unfriendly environment in the country. We rank last. And that's not good when that is the economic engine that drives things in our economy. It's what provides jobs for people. When some people can take the leap and take the chance of an entrepreneurial, small business opening, they provide work for other people. So they help support not just themselves. And out of businesses in the last couple of years or so, particularly during the lockdowns, we lost 30% of our small businesses. And then the big corporations, I mean, the ones that are around who could provide a lot of jobs, many have left the state for less expensive terrain. And it's hard to blame them. Unfortunately, we don't make it attractive for business here.
Right.
So we have to do something to turn that around and make it a place where people want to be. And that's the residents as well as the businesses at every level.
Because part and parcel of that component is the fact, not the notion, not the thought, but the fact that folks or businesses with capital, with money, with investment have choices, don't they? They can, there's no contract there, and there is no real loyalty anymore to a particular region, because ultimately the responsibility of a business is not to folks in the community. It's not to changing global climate change. It's not to fill in the blanks. The sole responsibility of a business is to provide profits ethically to its owners or shareholders. It really is that simple, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the bottom line, and that is the ethics. And also, I mean, I think, again, that also provides employment and income for many other workers. So, when the environment is right to grow a good business that does, again, perform ethically, and to do that does not require tons of red tape. I mean, it's really, more quality control that, if you don't do a good job with your business and producing products or providing services, you're going to go under because people just aren't going to come to you. So if we can get that kind of environment where the companies are doing what they need to do to be successful, to produce a quality product, for example, then people will be happy to pay a fair value for that. And that will be the return for the shareholders too, for the larger corporations. So in that respect, I mean, big corporations, for a long time had the bad rap, like, okay, they're greedy, they take and take and take. And there has been some of that certainly in history, but they also will provide on many occasions, a product that's worthy of the income they make in many situations. So if we can let the free market work that way, I think people would find that, yes, they're doing a good job of making life better for all. And also it's the wealth creation that gets handed to the employees to generate their part of income that then they can spend. That's how the free market works. And any kind of artificial hand of the government on the free market makes it less efficient.
Right.
So, if we can get the businesses to do what they do best and leave them to do that. I mean, there are also consequences if they do something wrong. It's not that they're not being watched and they're, going, running amok and harming people all over the place. I mean, they will be stopped if they try to get away with something like that. The natural result is going to be lawsuits as well as people stopping to buy, buying their products or asking for their services. So that shakeout will happen, and they will get either straightened out or go under, like they should in that case.
I want to get to education, but tell us in a nutshell where you would begin tax reform in New Jersey. It strikes me that having seen your site, you've got you've got a philosophically pure approach to it, but at the same time, you're eminently practical. What's the first step? Is it the onerous property taxes? Is it corporate income tax? Where do we start first in New Jersey?
Well, I mean, there's certainly problems with the school system. On the administrative side in particular is where we are looking to take a really close look at streamlining and making that more efficient. We have, I mean, for years in the past, every year the school budget came up for vote. Everyone was like, okay, well, yeah, this is a sacred cow. It's our children. We have to vote yes. We have to give them all the money we can to make it a better learning experience. But the classroom is not where that money went. Year after year, it went into what became an overbloated administrative area of the education system, the public education system. And so we have multi-layers of people earning what I consider amazingly high salaries. And there's no need for all those levels, first of all, and the red tape that comes with that. And it really becomes, a drag on performance. And that's why, I mean, one of our major campaign platform planks is school choice. Just like anything else, competition breeds excellence. There needs to be some competition to the public school system to keep them honest, so to speak, as the phrase goes, and do a better job and do it more efficiently. The key for that, of course, being the tax collection that does happen for education needs to follow the student wherever they go, not automatically just go into the public school system where, even if people drop out of it and go into other things like whether it's homeschool or charter schools or whatever else, if the money doesn't follow those students, the school system, the public school system, and the administration is not going to care. So that's one area to streamline and correct. Also, pensions are in some of the areas are very high, well-funded. Some are not, but most of them, or well, I should say many of them, are overfunded and don't need any extra special help. Also, the Medicaid system seems to have some inefficiencies that we want to look at. So those are kind of the big three particular areas of costs. But then also, just as an example, in New Jersey, we had the estate tax for a long time. It was the same number for decades because they never indexed it for inflation for a long time. It was 675,000. And when it was created, that was like the top 1%. Right. Now, when we got into right around the turn of the century, that was hitting more than half the people in terms of the cost of living here and what that translated to in terms of homeowners. Most homeowners were at or above that level. So it started to hit a lot of people. And eventually, yes, we got rid of the New Jersey estate tax, but it was replaced. And it was replaced with the gas tax, which disproportionately now affects the poor, like even the estate tax didn't at its worst lack of indexing for inflation. So we didn't get rid of the spending. We just put it under a new label and a different name and drew from more people in the state, the ones that couldn't afford it. So that's why we talk about the runaway spending, that we have to cut spending. I've been saying this in every campaign I've done, that that's the thing that no one else is willing to do or willing to even say. But we need to cut spending, and we need to be treating the money that we receive in tax revenue as if it was our own pocketbook. We have to be responsible to the taxpayers. That means we have to reduce it as much as we can while still providing the services that are necessary, and we otherwise have to redirect the funds that we collect to the most efficient uses that will give us the biggest bang for the buck.
Yeah, there's we have a saying up here. We we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem, and we need to cut spending in real terms, not
Yeah.
cutting the rate of increase of spending.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and therein, and by the way, in New Jersey and Rhode Island, they now use the word investment. So we don't spend money; we make investments.
Yeah.
Do they make investments in New Jersey, or do they just spend like drunken sailors? As you put it?
They spend like drunken sailors. Yeah, just like I said. I mean, it's amazing to me how, when I talk about the cutting of the spending, I mean, it's not in anyone else's vocabulary that's running. It's not in their vocabulary. They won't even come near that. In fact, it's hard to get them to talk about even reducing the rate of increase of spending. So, when you come in with this kind of, okay, we need to drop the spending, then, people try to paint you like, oh, that's crazy, there's going to be chaos in the streets or whatever.
Right.
No, it's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be efficient, and it's going to stay as much out of people's daily lives as it can, as government was always meant to be from the time of the founding fathers onward. We're going to get back to the personal responsibility, the volunteerism, and basically the consent. I mean, that's the big buzzword in our party. We have to have consent to enter into activities, to engage in any kind of volunteerism or donations, things like that. We need to have the public decide where the money goes, and we also need to make sure that we leave them with the vast bulk of what they earn, because it does belong to them.
I'd like to throw out a concept to you, and I'd love your reaction to this. We have entered, so and when it comes, you mentioned the word volunteerism. In my mind, we've entered sort of a volunteerism death spiral, and here's why. Government, in its never-ending quest to grow, continues to eclipse parents' responsibilities and parents' involvements in their lives and in children's lives, and they take over different aspects of their lives, and as a result, of course, that costs money to do, and it costs even more money to manage, and it costs even more money to integrate. So we then raise taxes, and we've found ourselves now, as we've quote unquote evolved as a society, where in order to simply make ends meet, we've gone from having a one person employment household to now we took for granted now a few years back the fact that two people have to work, and then now all of a sudden we're in a situation where in the gig economy, we have two people often working a total of 2, 3, or 4 jobs in the entire household, which of course exhausts people financially and personally, which leaves them less time to volunteer, which then of course breeds the attitude, well, I pay all these freaking taxes. Now, in New Jersey, just to put it in perspective from other parts of the country where people might be living, you talk about property taxes, you've got a 5-figure property tax bill for what most people would refer to as an ordinary 2,000 or 3,000 square foot, 1,800 square foot tract home. So that, of course, then leads the government to take up more work because less people have the time or the inclination to volunteer, which then, of course, starts the death spiral all over again. How do we as libertarians who advocate for a government-less society, how do we set the example for people personally in terms of volunteerism?
Well, and what you said is spot on as far as how much more pressure there is on families these days. More jobs have to be taken to keep up. I mean, people talk about, New Jersey is an expensive state tax-wise because it's got all these things, right? All these things to offer, but it's really because we're getting taxed to death. So if we didn't have quite as many taxes, it wouldn't have to be so expensive. But in terms of the alleviating the burden, I mean, I think people by and large want to get involved with some form of volunteering, and I mean, usually it is something, personal to them, something that maybe there's a family member, for example, has a particular type of illness, so they start working in a charity to raise funds to cure that illness, and that's very admirable and commendable. And other people just, they have the bandwidth, and they just want to do some good and give back for what they feel fortunate to have had in their life. So I think the spirit is there. I think it is a matter of, what kind of bandwidth and time does everyone have to actually implement that kind of thing in their life. I mean, I had my youngest stepson just left for college this week, and so now we're empty nesters, for me the second time. And so the first thing I did was I asked some of my colleagues that I work with and network with, anyone know a good place to spend some time volunteering? And so now I've got a couple of leads on some new charities that I can get involved with directly, just on a personal level, to commit some time, try to work out something to give back again for everything that I've been fortunate for enough to receive in this life. And I mean, I had, like I said, a very poor beginning. It was risky for me to go to college in the first place, because it was the kind of environment which, I mean, I'm sure you'll be familiar of the kind of stories where, like the kids had to hurry up and get out of school so they could start working and contribute to the family.
Right. Absolutely.
That was the big question when I was finishing high school, was could I afford to wait to contribute to go to college? Well, so I felt guilty. I mean, I felt that personal responsibility to my family for all their sacrifices. And I said, well, first of all, I mean, for a long time, I was doing very well in school. That was one thing I happened to have good fortune with. And I happened to collect a year's worth of college credit in my senior year of high school. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to make sure I finish in 3 years, and at least then the burden is as little as possible. So that's what I did for my undergraduate. And I wound up, after I got to, I mean, I had to borrow from family to pay that tuition, even though it was just state tuition. And back then, loans were a dirty word. We didn't have the internet to find out just how risky or not they were. So I did my 3 years, and then within a year of working, I paid all that back to my family. And then from there, I've basically had a lifetime of trying to take care of them as much as I can with whatever comes my way. And again, also had my own family to support for a long time. And so for me, it was the again, the kind of the personal responsibility. And what I tell people sometimes is, you know what, everyone's born kind of self-centered because you don't know any better. Plus, everybody kind of makes a big deal out of everything you do, and coddles you as a baby and all this kind of stuff. At some point, everyone gets a little bit of guilt and a little bit of shame, which is never a bad thing, because you do something, you realize, oh, you've negatively impacted someone, and suddenly the selfishness starts to go away, because you feel like, you know what, I feel so bad about not having been fair to that person, and it matures you very quickly. And when you realize that you're not the center of the universe, whenever that happens in everyone's life, and that you're just a small part of it, I think people mature very quickly all of a sudden, and they become very responsible and, look to really help people. And I mean, that's how I've been living my life since I was a very young person.
One last issue I want to touch on, and you alluded to it already with terms of Medicare costs. Healthcare in New Jersey, working well, expensive, state-run, single payer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we need more free market efficiency in there as well. I mean, in general, in this country, we have a lot of things that are way more expensive than other places, and just like, and sorry to just jump back for a second to the school idea. I mean, our state has always been a fairly high-ranked state within the country for education, but internationally, our country as a whole has dropped dramatically. There's a reason for that, and it's the same with the healthcare costs. That basically, I mean, you look in almost anywhere else, and you have much easier access financially and otherwise to medications that people can use. And again, it's left to personal choice and personal responsibility of each person what they want to try, things like that. We are pushing in terms of a lot of the medications that right now cost such an exorbitant amount, like insulin, things like that. I mean, we're looking for, to the extent that there are places outside the country even that have medications that seem to be doing well, but haven't been approved here yet, that there should be the freedom of choice there as well. And that, in the end, that's one of our biggest things, is freedom of choice for all these personal things. And so we want access for people to try things if that's their choice. We don't want to force anybody, but we want them to have the option. And some people are going to want to take that choice, and that's okay. We shouldn't have an environment like we seem to have where people are shaming each other for their medical choices, pro or anti whatever. It's really something that people should be cognizant of, the fact that every human being has a different situation. They have a different set of priorities. They also have a different level of what they feel are safe steps to take or precautions to make life function the way it was meant to be. And that's why, you talk about what's one of the things that that I'm promoting that you'll never hear from anybody else. If I'm elected the first day, not only will I make sure that, if there is any lockdown going on at that point, that we eliminate it, but I'm going to ban it for the future, so that the quote unquote permanent emergency powers that our governor has, which is an oxymoron to say the least, that becomes illegal and subject to immediate removal from office, no matter how cozy you are with no matter how many donors, and that you need to pay the price for something like that. It's really devastated so many people in so many ways, far more than any intended benefit from it, which didn't even materialize. The differences are so small on the benefit side, but the burdens have been just atrocious.
So much of the impact of these lockdowns has been reflected in the anecdotal. And very often, much is made of an old favorite restaurant that was eventually just closed, or a hardware store that might have closed. And yet little insight for all the media bandwidth that's been spent on this, on the tragedies of Corona, of COVID. So little time has been spent on the businesses that no one ever saw, but were so important to local economies and to the families that ran them. And it represented literally lifetimes of work, who were snuffed out of existence in a thoroughly arbitrary and capricious manner, with little regard to the impact on the owners, to the suppliers, to the customers. And we're starting to feel that now, as for the first time really in this nation's history, outside of, say World War II, where we've got real supply chain issues and yet we obsess over that, the discomfort it provides to us as consumers. And again, people's lives were stolen from them by an out of control, vicious government that saw nothing in it but for their headlines and for the quote unquote reflections on their leadership. How do we as libertarians, and I want to make sure you have time for what we call shameless self-promotion, but how do we as libertarians, during the political process that we're about to jump into this year and in the midterms, bring light to that economic freedom and life choices should not fall victim to literally an evil government?
Yeah, well, and as far as the lockdowns and the fear that's been spread about COVID, look, everybody knows people did die from it. Many people died from it. In fact, in New Jersey, our governor had a hand in a lot of it with the nursing home debacle.
Right.
But putting that aside, we have nothing but sympathy and condolence for every single person who lost a loved one. The people who are left behind suffer just as much. Just about. And it's the same thing. I think back to actually for 9/11. I was working in New York City at the time. I wasn't very close to the towers at that point. I had been before, but it wasn't just the people who passed on that day. It was also the complete change of life for everyone else that worked in that city. I mean, you could see that it was far-reaching impact on everyone in some form or another. But while we want to save everyone we can save, we also know that it's not a perfect world, and there are a lot of reasons why people will pass. I mean, eventually we all will, right? But the idea is that we want to use really common sense, logic and critical analysis, critical thinking to figure out how to optimize this world we live in terms of keeping people safe without going overboard where we see these collateral damage, negative effects come out of the method chosen. So, we have to try to focus on what's really going to happen when we choose a path. Or start something small scale and see what happens if it's hard to tell exactly how it will go. But we shouldn't be taking such drastic measures that certainly our current governor has taken. It's just been nothing but negative, and that's why we're the worst in the country. And so if we could undo some of that at least, or at least focus on really paying attention to the data. I mean, the data is out there if people will look at it, but the media doesn't promote it, and many people don't have the time or energy to go look for it. And they keep it well hidden so that they don't see exactly how it's gone. We need an improvement there. We need more transparency with the information that the government does do research on. And I think if that was provided, clearly and without any kind of massaging or bias or anything like that, I think everyone would be happier. I mean, as far as the news, where's the old Walter Cronkites of today? They're not around, right? Because they don't just tell us facts anymore. They tell us opinions as though they are facts. And it's the same thing with government. They twist the information to some degree to fit whatever theme they want, whatever narrative, as we call it. And then they use that to push their agenda. And, the government's not supposed to be pushing an agenda on us. They're supposed to be figuring out what works best for us, the public.
Well, I've loved this conversation tonight. We've kind of strayed tonight from the typical candidate's corner. It's more been a philosophical conversation from two gents with a few years between us, right?
Well, you asked for it by inviting an attorney. So I can talk.
No, great stuff. Hey, listen, will we see you at the candidates training in Atlantic City? Will you be making an appearance at least? I hope.
Oh, sure will. No, I'll be there that weekend. Mm-hmm. We have actually we're planning on trying to set up a big fundraiser for the Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday I'll be there for all the courses. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I look forward to meeting you finally.
Same here.
I'm making a trip back to the home country, to the old country, right?
My father's side would use that term a lot. The old country. That's the Italian side.
Mm-hmm. No, the Irish side. I grew up in a town that was predominantly Italian. A lot of folks who were, we used to say, they were directly. I'll just say this: they were directly from Italy. And I was the Irish kid. So there you go.
Understood. Yep.
But so it'll be great to see him. And folks, we're going to do a plug for AC in just a minute. But engage in what we lovingly refer to here as shameless self-promotion. Your race this year, listen, all these races are critically important, but your race, just in terms of the scale, the efficiency of it, the way that you've campaigned aggressively, the way that you brought a libertarian message to a state. I guess the term I'll use is moribund. Is that a good word? I'll take it. Yeah, there you go. In a place, wow, when you think of a community, it's so capable of taking the libertarian philosophy and message and statement of principles and running with it is New Jersey, yet a state so seemingly stuck in the mud, so seemingly incapable of getting out of its own way, so seemingly held hostage by the duopoly is New Jersey. So again, I'll use the word dichotomy again. There is this strange dichotomy that exists with New Jersey. So your race is critical, and it's important that libertarians around the country send you a couple of bucks. I mean, I say every week, one of the challenges we face is that we run against candidacies and against political machines that manage to draw resources in the age of Bernie Sanders. All right. A few bucks from a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to start doing as a community. $5 here, $10 here. We understand people are strapped. We understand that this has been a difficult year, but your candidacy is among several, but one of the more prominent, that if the money spent here in New Jersey will resonate, I believe, given the proximity to New York City, given the vibrancy, the size of New Jersey, literally around the country. So where can folks donate to you? How can folks in New Jersey who in the next few weeks may hear this for the first time about your candidacy somehow, if they haven't heard about it before, where can they participate? And where can Libertarian Nation help you out?
Yeah, well, all of it is central to, and even though we don't like centralization, but our website, it's www.melefor.governor.com, right there on the screen. That is where everything resides as far as central sort of repository. So we have all over the place on that site, and we also have places to indicate willingness to volunteer, things like that. And we have an army that's growing, so we're hoping to get more. Yeah, I mean, I hate to ask for money from everybody. It goes against my upbringing, like I was talking about, the pride, the work ethic, the don't take any handouts, but you just can't survive in this arena without that. And so, yes, I do hope that everyone can provide whatever they can spare to be able to grow this campaign, really get the word out more effectively every day than the day before, and just keep moving in the right direction so we can get some real notice from some real heavy hitters. And I had one person who is actually in one of the other parties, but is a friend, and his indication to me was, you know what, there's never been in his many years of following political campaigns, he's never seen a third-party gubernatorial campaign being talked about nearly as much as this one is. And I am so grateful for that, because it is my team. I mean, I told them way before the nomination, when I first started talking to people about helping me on this, as I formed the initial group on the team. I said, we can't do it, just with a couple of people, and certainly I can't do it alone. I would not have nearly the successes so far that I've had without my amazing team. And I love them all. They're terrific people, and they're dedicated, like I am, to making sure that this word gets out, and hopefully we can turn this state around.
Well, great stuff. John's flashing up right now. The link again one more time, meleforgovernor.com.
There you go.
Please, folks, take a moment, find a way to help. There are so many different ways you can help when you look at when you look at states that are just geographically diverse. New Jersey feels like it not only occupies different worlds, different time zones, different planets. And when we look at states like New Jersey and Oklahoma, just to name a few, in Texas and states like that, where we're opposing these machines, these vast machines, that resources are everything. So again, a couple of million people voted for Joe Jorgensen for president. If we can get just a couple of dollars from half of those people, wow. And if you have a takeaway from tonight, it's the feeling that money invested in this campaign, I'll use their word, right? Invested is money going to be spent with a degree of efficiency that our governments could only hope and dream to replicate. Gregg, hang on for a second, because I want to take just a moment, and then I want to give you one last sort of elevator pitch. Folks, before you sign off tonight, I just want to remind everyone that there are still openings in Atlantic City, although it's filling up quickly, and hotel space is at a premium. But please go to lp.org, and you'll see links there for the regional affiliate candidate training. We've still got 4: Iowa, Indiana, New Jersey, and of course, I believe it's Louisiana, where folks are going to be able to, I think it's Shreveport, where folks are going to be able to sign up for this candidate training. We had on the affiliate show this past week, We had folks from Jersey. We had Dan Krause, Rich Bowen, and of course, the inimitable Kara Schultz, who joined us and talked about this candidate training. It is amazing. I look forward to going. I'm not even a candidate. I'll just sit there quietly for once and just absorb it, because it has the potential to be life-changing for our party. That's how well it's going. So if you're in Delaware or Pennsylvania, understand that this is not exclusive to Region 8. It is very much a first come, first serve, that you've got the very best of the Libertarian Party movement being brought to bear on these regional candidate facilities. It's free. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of expenses. Rich Bowen, who is, I believe, one of the great financial minds of the of candidacies and campaign finance, if you will, knowledge in the party nationwide, assures me that if in fact you're able to raise funds as a candidate in almost every affiliate location, you can use that money to pay for your trip, whether it to be to any one of those 4 locations. So please, this training is leading to a level of professionalization in the party, in the campaign mechanisms that we've never had an opportunity for before. And a lot of people have worked very hard to bring this to you. Please take advantage of this. Again, I'm talking about specifically Atlantic City. I'll be there the October 9th, I believe is the date. That's Columbus Day weekend, in a great spot right on the boardwalk. So please take the time. There is training both for candidacies, and of course, I haven't even spoken about the training that's available for, if you will, affiliate level positions, state chair, folks who are running county affiliates. So wonderful opportunity. Gregg, let's go out with give us that 1 minute elevator pitch. If you're speaking to the Libertarian Nation, if you're speaking to the people in New Jersey, what does a Gregg Mele gubernatorial win mean for the Garden State?
Well, it means heading in the best direction possible. Like you said before, the worst cause of death, the leading cause of death over human history is big government. And we're the only ones looking to become fiscally responsible, get control of the budget, and really make life better and make it attractive to be here. When I was a kid, we loved being in New Jersey. There was a lot of good things here, and it's just deteriorated so much because of the irresponsible leadership we've had. And right now, I mean, we have we call them the king and his clone running for the other 2 parties, and we just need a change in direction so desperately. Our state is going in a horrible direction. It's deteriorating, and we need to stop it. People talk about wasted vote. Well, here's the wasted vote. Waiting and throwing a vote at someone who's going to keep the same losing policies for 4 more years. We don't have 4 more years to wait and let things go the way they've been going. And that's what it's going to be with the other 2. So please, consider our platform, at least, give us a read, ask our, questions, come out to see us at one of the stops. We will not shy away from any question. We will have answers, and I assure you, you will love them, because they're going to get us back on track, and it's going to make things so much better for everybody.
Just wonderful sentiment. One that I echo. We've got the heart and soul of the campaign for the 2021 elections is just literally days away. It's great to see that you've been out there early. Again, I'll tell you what I tell candidates every week. The act of being a candidate for office in the United States, I believe, is second only to serving in the defense of our nation in terms of patriotism and also a love of your community. Equally important. Being willing to extend yourself personally, financially, time away from your family, in this case, your newborn grandchild, is truly an act of love. And if I can just put myself for a moment, speaking on behalf of the Libertarian community, thank you. And to any other candidate who's out there, please reach out to us. We're going to go hot and heavy, get as much exposure to as many candidates going through until November and beyond, as we start to think about 2022, but particularly the 2021 candidates. If you're out to reach out to us, we want to promote you. We want to show you the love. We want to give you an opportunity to shine. Reach out to myself, Pat Ford. I'm everywhere on social media. You can find me, post in the Region 8 page. Find me. Reach out to me. We want to have these kind of conversations.
Mhm.
Let's celebrate what's great about the libertarian movement. And Gregg Mele, you are one of those people that are great about the libertarian movement. So thanks again.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate the words of love and kindness and appreciation. It's my honor and privilege to be one of the messengers for the party in this case. And I said when I received the nomination, I promised everyone that was there or tuning in from Zoom, and I promised them the fight of my life. And that's what I'm trying to give them and intend to continue giving right up till the end. And I hope that when it's done, folks will sit back and say, we did something special this year. And hopefully it's a springboard to even bigger and better things going forward. So thank you, Pat, so much for having me on the show. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to once again get the word out to libertarians and libertarian-minded people out there.
Excellent. Folks, you've been listening to Candidates Corner on LPTV, Libertarian Party Television, a production of the Libertarian Party and Libertarian Party National Committee. Whitney Bilyeu serving as chair. As always, a big thanks to John Gapso on the big board. He's the one who brings us the fun graphics and the maps and the vote totals and the candidates' names, all that great stuff. My name is Pat Ford. I'm your host. You'll see us again live on Monday night. As always, it's a singular honor to be here in front of all of you to chat with, I believe, the leaders, if you will, of liberty and freedom in this nation. Folks, be safe this weekend. For folks on the Northeast coast, be careful. We're expecting some rough weather up here, so I hope you'll keep us in all your thoughts. And for all the folks around the world who are seeking liberty, whether it be the folks who are the unintentional yet victim of incompetence and stupidity in Afghanistan, for the ongoing chaos at the border with regard to immigration justice, with the madness that is our strategy, our reaction to the pandemic, all of that. Give your best efforts. Let's get to work. Have a great week.